Ed100 Chapter 5 focuses on the broad meaning of a place for learning. This video is a brief overview of the lessons online at ed100.org. Most students by far attend the school closest to where they live. For many, that nearby school, good or bad, is the only one they are allowed to attend. One critic of this arrangement famously refers to zip codes as 5 digits of separation. Obviously, limiting students to the school in their neighborhood contributes to school segregation. In the 1970s, many school districts in California were ordered to desegregate. The idea that families should have some choices about where their kids attend school has been a motivating factor behind the creation of schools with less rigid attendance areas. An early version of this idea was the magnet school, attractive, rigorous, usually selective schools located in a high-poverty area of a school district. Only a handful of them were created. Later, partly in response to charter schools, more about them a little bit later, many larger school districts began to give families more choice of schools using a lottery system. We now know that given the choice, parents tend to choose schools where they think their kids will belong. School choice systems, ironically, tend to make schools somewhat more segregated rather than less. In school, kids are frequently sorted into groups. Grade levels, of course, but within grade levels, teachers place students within reading groups or math levels or similar groups based on the teacher's impression of what each student needs and what will work in the classroom. At the high school level, some schools intentionally appeal to students with particular interests, such as the arts or technology or international languages. The state has allowed a few single-gender schools, too. In general, selective policies tend to benefit those who make the effort to ask to be selected. Families that are less engaged don't apply. Especially at the high school level, some students fall off the normal path. In order to keep students from dropping out entirely, the state includes a set of about 800 alternative schools, also known as continuation schools. These small schools try to help students find a path forward, usually including the GED test, an alternative to an ordinary diploma. Most students in California, about 8 out of 10, attends a public school, a regular traditional district public school governed by an elected school board. About 1 in 10 attends a private school or homeschool, and another 1 in 10 attends a charter school. Charter is another word for contract. Charter schools are public schools authorized through a contract, usually with a school district. Charter schools start with a petition signed by parents and teachers to create a new school with an independent governing board. The proposal must meet a detailed list of requirements. If authorized, charter schools have significant autonomy as long as they meet the obligations in their charter, which must be renewed every few years. Many regulations that apply to traditional schools are waived for charter schools. At some charter schools, the teachers have organized a union, but most don't. Based on outcome measures like test scores, attendance, and graduation rates, most public charter schools are no better or worse than public district schools. However, it's also true that a disproportionate share of the state's most successful schools for low-income students over the last decade have been charter schools. Less than 10% of California students attend a private school. Tuition at private schools is not taxed and is not tax deductible. California voters have rejected several proposals to provide funding for private schools through voucher systems. Most private schools, about 4 out of 5, are affiliated with a religion. Because health and other services are so important to families, some schools have tried partnerships with varying success. The quality of any school has a lot to do with leadership. If you come across a magic wand for your school, your first wish should be to eliminate poverty, but save a wish for a great school leader. Keeping up with population growth has been a long-term challenge for California's school system. In Los Angeles, about a third of students attend class in a portable building. Lesson 5.9 describes how facilities are paid for in California and what it takes to pass a school bond. One challenge is that schools have not consistently upgraded their networks, so access to web-based learning tools is unequal in California. Many successful schools put significant energy into developing a positive school climate. There are some important surveys that all school leaders should know about to measure that. In the early 2000s, there was a big push to create small schools that would be more personal. It kind of worked, but in general, students are better off at a bigger school with a strong leader than at a small school with a weak one. Parents have the right to homeschool their kids in California. The motivation for homeschooling used to be dominated by religious concerns, but now most express that they're looking to escape the school environment. Only about 3% of California's students are homeschooled, but the percentage is growing with the availability and improvement of online courses. Ed100.org is an online course, and you just completed a quick summary of Chapter 5. For much more, including full lessons, quizzes, discussion guides, and our blog, visit ed100.org.